I'm scared.
Biden is just so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country.
You should make a diss track on him.
Yeah, we'll do something.
Do you think that you're starting to soften your views on some of the networks that you may have not gotten along with in the past?
No, they're fake news.
We had a street fight this past week.
And how did it work out?
How you think, Mr. President?
I think you probably did pretty good. I've watched enough of you fighting. Did you guys start like separately?
Me and Jake?
Yes.
Nah, together.
Oh, you started together?
Together on YouTube.
And did you branch out? You each have your own thing?
Yeah, well, eventually.
It's an amazing 2 stories, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Who makes more money?
It depends on the year. It depends if Jake has fights.
and it depends on when this sells, right?
Yeah. I think.
Is that your new drink? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
If you make it, I like it.
Oh, thank you,
Mr.
President.
No, it's got to be good. It's got to be, look, something's propelling him to fight world champions to a draw, right?
Yeah. We actually made this American Prime
beautiful.
special
Wow.
for this episode. It's a hydration beverage.
It's doing fine, doing well.
We did 1.2 billion last year.
That's great.
Year 2.
That's fantastic. Big one for you guys.
Oh, no way. We got gifts.
Oh, nice. So for a lot of money, this thing.
Oh, no way. Oh, thank you, President.
You split it up. Here's
amazing.
something we have for you. This is
Is this your mugshot?
can you believe it?
You're a gangster.
This is what we're reduced to.
All right, folks. So let me first confirm to you, you are not dreaming. You are not on drugs. This is indeed the timeline we are living in. Donald Trump just sat down with Logan Paul for an interview at Mar A Lago, and we will react to it, talk about it, watch some of the clips here today. But first, I want to address a question that maybe some conservative skeptics are asking, which is, why would Trump sit down with Logan? Logan is a clown. Logan is a woke sellout. Okay, let's talk about that. And if you don't care to hear my little speech here, feel free to skip ahead in the video to the part where we get to the reaction clips. But if you do believe this is important, I will tell you this. Why would Trump sit down with Logan? Well, first of all, because Logan Paul, like him or not, and I have many things to say about him, runs one of the biggest podcasts on the internet. His podcasts get way more views than the average cable news thing. So, of course, from a numbers standpoint, you're trying to win an election here. It makes sense. Logan's audience is primarily young. Trump is very smart to make a play for Gen Z voters, especially considering recent polls that show Gen Z is actually way more favorable to Trump and conservative ideas than we previously thought. And we just saw a case study over in Europe. Remember those European elections we talked about on Sunday? Well, it was actually true that it was primarily young voters that led a lot of this nationalist uprising over in Europe. So this is all to say, Trump making a play to the young people, not just refining himself to cable news and middle-aged people, very smart. Because number one, they are the future, obviously. But number two, the GOP has largely failed for many years to make an outreach. And so that's very smart. Now, on the front that Logan is a woke sellout, yes, it is absolutely true. At this time 4 years ago, Logan Paul was cringily shilling for BLM. I was very critical of him. I said for many years, his younger brother was the much smarter guy. But look, guys, we all believe in redemption. If it is true that he is evolving in a better direction, then good for him. And even if it's not true, even if it's not sincere, he's just doing this to go along with the current wave of things, I would still say, okay, at least he's platforming more positive people on the podcast. So on both fronts, I think this interview was a great idea for Trump and a great idea for Logan. Just want to start there with that. Okay, with that understood and out of the way, again, very smart for Trump to make a play for the young voters here. I want to start here with the clip where in the opening, Donald Trump meets Logan and Mike, because this showed something very interesting about Trump and I thought was kind of a very brilliant moment that may go a long ways with young people. And I'll tell you why in a second. But first, check out the introductory moment between Logan Paul and Donald Trump.
This is going to be great.
I think so too,
Looking forward
Mr.
to
Trump.
this all my life. My whole life. Anyway, hi fellas, how you doing?
How are you, boss?
How's your brother? Good?
Yeah, he's excellent.
You have a good relationship with him, right?
With Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do now. But it's not always been like that.
It's always been, yeah, I can imagine.
He's my
But
brother.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Taylor Tyson, who you got?
Yeah, right?
Who you got?
When is that gonna be?
November. It got rescheduled.
Well, look, Mike was fantastic, but you know, Mike's a little older now.
Yeah.
And you guys can fight.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, but you guys can really fight, legitimately fight.
Thank you, sir.
At first I said, it's so amazing because I always thought like a UFC guy or a top, even contender would be able to win at 75 years old.
You think?
But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
The clock is still the clock.
Yeah. I figured that out with Floyd as well.
Yeah, how about that, right?
I don't know.
I mean, it was,
which
you would
shouldn't
have
make.
thought he would have won that fight.
That's what I thought.
That was your thinking.
Some people still think he did win that
For you
fight.
guys.
Oh, no way. We got gifts.
So for a lot of money, this thing.
Oh, no way. Thank you, President.
She split it up. Here's
amazing.
something we have for you. This is a.
Is this your mugshot?
Can you believe it?
You're a gangster.
This is what we're reduced to.
No way.
Should we put him on now?
Yeah. Is it crazy?
That's amazing.
And it sells. Well, Elvis had one. Frank Sinatra had one.
This shirt?
But we've eclipsed them. A long time ago, we've eclipsed them.
This is crazy.
It's pretty cool. Isn't it cool?
I have to be honest, I'm jealous.
It's actually, I'm not sure if I love it or not, but
No, it's
it is
good.
what it is.
That moment alone, I thought was so important and why I genuinely believe this podcast could be instrumental with Trump making inroads with young people because in many ways, it humanized Donald Trump, right? You saw the side of Donald Trump that maybe a lot of us conservatives are familiar with. We've heard the stories. But if you're a normie, if you're a person who doesn't pay much attention to politics, you may see Trump all the time as this ruthless, mean, impersonable guy. And at that moment and throughout this entire podcast, I think Trump presents a side of himself to young people that maybe they're not familiar with, but now it's wide and open in the clear. Because what we learned from this podcast is Trump is actually a cool guy. He's chill, he's funny, and you look at the comment section of primarily, again, young people reacting to this, that's exactly how they felt. You know, they were kind of laughing about it, they were memeing it, they were making jokes, they're having a fun time here, but it's not at Donald Trump's expense. It's more so in the sense that, hey, you know, this guy's kind of funny, this guy's kind of cool, I like this guy, and I think you saw even more of the human side of Trump when the co-host, Mike, opens up about his battle with drug addiction. And you know anything about Mike, of course, that's been true. And he talks a lot about it. And Mike, prior to this moment, seemed a little awkward with Trump, but Trump actually gives him a pretty big compliment here. And again, just a great look because we learn a lot about the human side of Trump that maybe doesn't necessarily get portrayed so much on the campaign trail. Check it out.
Had as well. My road has been a little bit rockier, as we were talking about in my book, The Fifth Vital. I spent 8 years addicted to heroin, living on the East Coast. In what I considered, you know, I think a lot of people considered.
So you were addicted.
Correct.
Wow.
I think a lot of people consider it to be the great opiate
Let me
epidemic.
see the book. Can I see the book?
Absolutely.
We're gonna make this sucker a best-selling book.
There's a message. There's a message for you.
No, it's such an important.
It's actually
Where's
already
my camera?
it's already a
Go
best-selling
out and
book.
buy this book. It's great.
That was for you, I believe.
I wrote a message to you in
Good.
there. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep it.
Thank you so
But
much.
it's such an important topic. Yeah, seriously, that's so important.
There's a lot of people that are still kind of wrapped up in that world, and I just want to ask you some questions. There's so many people out there on the streets right now without access to resources with mental health care, rehabilitation centers.
Yeah.
What's your plan to continue to stem the flow of fentanyl into the country, as well as help the people who have already fallen victim to the opiate epidemic?
So when I took over, you know, it was drug infested. When I ran in 2016, I ran on the border. This is like a war. There's rarely a war. I mean, how many wars were you losing? 300,000 people a year. And everybody knows a family. I know many families where their children die and they're not even addicted. They take a pill that's unrelated, and it got a little bit of fentanyl. And I had a deal worked out with President Xi, but of course Biden didn't follow up, just like he didn't follow up on the Abraham Accords. So we have to be very tough on the border, and that includes drugs as well as people.
Mr. President, I got the 10-minute warning from the team, which is now 8-minute.
Let's let him go a little longer. It's fine. I like it. Is that okay? Yeah, let him go a little bit longer, okay? Look at these two guys. And then it'll turn out to be a lousy show, and I'll say, you were right, Jason. It'll be good. So go for another 20 minutes. Is that all right? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Jason.
It seems to be a nice flow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's go. Biden says, I don't have that problem. But, well, first of all, he would never, he couldn't do this interview. You asked him questions like this?
No, we were talking about that. We were like,
we'd like to extend the invite to Joe Biden if he'd like to come on this podcast.
Yeah, I think he
eventually.
should. You know what chance you have of getting him on? I'd say less than 1%. Okay.
Now, of course, a little bit of politics was discussed in this podcast. Obviously, it's Donald Trump. But again, I think that's the most important part here is it was a chill, kind of sit-down, candid conversation. It wasn't aggressive. It didn't seem scripted at all. By the way, you ever think Biden could do that? You know, I know Biden did the Howard Stern interview where Howard Stern completely carried him. But could Biden sit down with Logan and Mike and have this candid of a conversation or seem this relatable? Absolutely not. In fact, he might be a little funny because he's just such a sleepy old grandpa. But besides that, we know he couldn't have this discussion. But if you're curious, a little bit of foreign policy was talked about. And Trump does make some points here on the Russia-Ukraine war. And again, relating it to things that Gen Z might care about. Somehow, I don't think he was really even trying, but he managed to do it. He talks about his relationship with Khabib and a lot of other stuff and fights and whatnot in the process. And just check out some of that.
Since you left office, the number of global conflicts has skyrocketed. And I know Khabib talked to you about it quickly when you spoke with him. What are your thoughts and concerns around our current handling of our relationship with Russia?
Well, the Russian attack on Ukraine would have never happened if I were president. Would have never happened. And it didn't happen during my 4 years. It didn't happen. It wouldn't have happened. I got along very well with Putin. I got along with Zelensky.
And with you back in office, you think we'll get that respect back?
Yeah, we'll get it back. We'll get it back.
What's your relationship like with Vladimir Putin?
I think very good, but I was tough with him. When you have nuclear weapons, and even if you don't have nuclear weapons, getting along is good, but be the tough one, be the smart one, get along is good. I tell the press all the time, no, the fact that I get along with Kim Jong-un, North Korea.
That's crazy.
President Xi.
That's crazy.
It's all good stuff getting along, but nobody ever took money out of China like me. I took hundreds of billions of dollars out in the form of tariffs and taxes. And we had no wars. We had no nothing. I defeated ISIS, started no wars. I wasn't in any wars. Now, that I don't know how you may feel about that because, you know, you're a warrior, right? Because all fighters, and you're a real fighter, by the way.
It's not good. It's not good. I don't shy away from conflict. My fiance has a problem with it.
Yeah.
It's not good. You're much more diplomatic than I probably would be.
You know, it was very interesting though. So Khabib came up to me after the fight the other night. And, you know, you guys would probably say he's the best ever maybe. And, you know, certainly he probably is and are very close, right? John Jones, a lot of people say. He said to me, oh, I hope you can get in because we have to stop the wars. We have to stop the killing, the killing. He was so smart. He understood it. And I think he's friends or was friends, but I think he is friends with Putin very much.
Yeah.
But he said, we have to stop the killing. And it's true. And I think I'd have that war stopped if I was president-elect.
And I completely agree. The wars that are going on around the world, largely because of the failed foreign policy leadership of Joe Biden, are tragic. And yes, Donald Trump is the president of peace. And arguably, when you talk about the future of the country, young people in the world, maybe that's an underrated selling point of the Donald Trump campaign is, look, we're not going to be a nuclear war. You know, the world's not going to come undone while Trump is president. That has happened under Joe Biden. And if you want to talk about maybe the future world that your kids may inherit, that our generation may inherit, that's something important. We don't want to see a world on fire, right? On that related note, Logan talks about the fact that the American dream for my generation in many ways is largely dead, or at the very least is much harder than it was compared to past generations. And asked Trump, what's sort of your message to those kids? And Trump says something that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, a little bit funny, but also, in my opinion, very true. Check out that exchange about Gen Z and the American dream.
For other young people in this country who are looking to get ahead, times are tough right now.
It's very tough.
What would you say to them? Kids who want to pursue their own version of the American dream and try to achieve their wildest dreams and make it all come true?
I would say very simply, honestly, vote for Trump. Because with Biden, you're never going to do it. This country's going to hell. Vote for Trump. And with young people, we're doing very well. But I say vote for Trump. If you don't have the right guy in the lead, the country's not going to, you know, if the country doesn't do well, it's much harder to do even what you do, okay? Even what you do. So that would be a simple message. I really mean it, actually.
You know what's funny about that? You may perceive that as like a lazy or a cheap response, but genuinely speaking, I actually think it's pretty true. In fact, I've had a couple of conversations with like the parents of, some people I'm friends with and, growing up, they're kind of Democrat leaning or whatever, but they follow my work. Sometimes we talk about these things. I've had a couple of conversations along the lines of, now because Biden's been such a failure, and the left has gone so far, they're kind of questioning their current relationship with the Democrats, et cetera. They're kind of more in the center. And they give this answer of, at this point, I don't know exactly who I'm going to vote for. I'm sure you know people like that. We all know people like that. Former Democrats who are now very split on the entire situation. And the response I sometimes give is, look, I get it. You don't like Trump. You think he's a bad guy or he tried to overthrow the government, but also you agree a lot more with some of his policies than Biden maybe. Just think about it for a moment. Make a calculated decision. What type of country do you want your kids to inherit? Do you want your kids to try to seek a job and raise a family in the economy that Joe Biden has built? Or would you rather have something like the Trump economy and Donald Trump's America? Because if that's the case, and that's the answer you're looking for, really, what future country are my kids going to inherit, whether it's on the economy, immigration, World War III, and global policy? It is undeniably true when you look at it that way and kind of take the personal aspects out of it. Donald Trump is now the obvious choice. And so, we can react to more of the podcast. They also had conversations about UFOs, some parts about UFC, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to steal too much. So feel free to go watch the full podcast yourself if you want. I encourage you to do so. But I want to close here on this point, kind of tie it back to the opening part where I talked about, hey, is Logan Paul still a woke sellout, or how do you feel about him now? Okay, so again, as I will reiterate, 4 years ago, this exact time, basically, June 2020, Logan Paul was shilling for Black Lives Matter, and he did that entire awful, terrible speech about how America's such a racist country, I'm so woke, blah, blah, blah.
And I'm embarrassed that it's taken me 25 years to realize this. It is not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist.
Yes.
Condemn those who feign superiority because of the color of their skin. Friends, hold friends accountable. Hold your family accountable. Hold yourself accountable. And most importantly, we must hold our authorities accountable. Police officers, politicians, policymakers. As Killer Mike said, bully the politicians at the voting booth. Mm-hmm. Make your voice heard. Attend a protest. Speak up against injustice. If you're white, if you look like me, use your privilege. And for those who do not think white privilege exists, you are fucking blind. You are delusional and you are part of the problem.
Okay. So we made fun of him for it. I still kind of look at that and I say, oh, really, Logan? But still, 4 years later, Logan Paul is interviewing Donald Trump. Let it be clear and said that he is far from the only celebrity or just person in general who is this way, right? Think about how many formerly woke or pro-Biden celebrities in 2020 now have either seemingly come around to Trump, or at the very least, they're a little bit more silent. They don't really talk about politics anymore. Dwayne Johnson, for one, comes to mind when I think about celebrities like that. And by the way, it extends a lot to normal people as well. This is all to say that I almost think in many ways, Logan Paul is a prime archetype. He is a prime example of the way in which, believe it or not, notice it or not, conservatives have kind of won the culture war over the past few years. And maybe in a weird, cynical way, we can be thankful for the failures of Joe Biden because they led us to this point. Because think about this in your own personal life, the things you see online, in school, at work, whatever. Think about where the normies were 4 years ago compared to where the normies are now. And when I say normie, I don't mean normie in like the political internet sense. I mean genuinely normal people who are largely apolitical, but maybe they engage in that, or they're genuinely, or at least they consider themselves to be in the middle. Notice how that sentiment has changed over these past 4 years. Think about friends, think about family. How many people do you know that maybe at Thanksgiving in, say, 2017, 2018, used to yell at you for supporting Trump? They were like, how dare you? You're not my family. What are those conversations like now? How many people have you seen? Maybe they don't support Trump, but they're a lot less hostile to you. Have you noticed that the hostility towards conservatives from the people in the center has largely faded? It has decreased over the past 4 years. And in fact, you're starting to notice a lot of centrist people maybe a little bit more sympathetic to Republicans than they were. And hey, maybe some of them, like I brought up earlier, are now asking genuine questions. Yeah, I voted Biden in 2020, but now I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm kind of leaning towards Trump. I'm thinking about this. Again, this all goes to show that the culture has shifted, because I know I'm not the only one who sees that. You're not the only one. This is happening across America. Do you also notice that in general, in 2024 compared to 2020, people are a lot less scared to speak out than they used to be? Why? Because that's the culture, right? Cancel culture largely has become way less powerful than it used to be. There's a reason why Logan Paul is interviewing Donald Trump in 2024, and you can see doesn't even seem that scared about it. He's not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be canceled. In 2020, the reaction to that would have been much different. But what is that a sign of? That is a genuine sign, actually, that the culture has shifted in our favor. Now, that's not to say that the job is done, because the job is far from done. A lot of these people in the center, maybe it's a moment. Who knows if they're going to come all the way over to our side? But the point is this: if you ever wanted a sign to be optimistic, if you ever say conservatives never win anything in the culture war, which has been true for a long time, look at what has gradually, subtly happened in the past 4 years. The overall Overton window among normal people in this country has actually shifted in our favor. And I think that is very real. And that's perhaps reasons to be optimistic, especially about this election, because the general energy, the general culture in our country is now much different than it was, say, 4 years ago. And so I think maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I genuinely think this Logan Paul podcast and the fact that it happened, and this time in the last election year, he was shilling Black Lives Matter, prime example, ironic because his drink is called Prime, but prime example of the way maybe things are shifting. And so, you know, again, Logan, I've been very critical of you for a long time, but you know, if this is a genuine personal evolution of yours, good for you, right? I don't think this is a time for conservatives or Christians to be hating on him. You know, he just had Cliff on. Now he's having Donald Trump on. Maybe you saw that and you say, look, okay, maybe it's sincere, maybe it's not. Maybe he's just going with the times, although that in itself would also be a sign that conservatives are winning the culture war, because that's now where the energy is. But still, regardless, I think now is the time to actually say, good job on this, good on you for doing this, and show them that our side is not really as hateful or angry or purity spiraling as the other side. You know, just something to consider. All right, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts if you watched the Logan Paul Donald Trump interview in the comment section down below. Tell me what your favorite part was. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, Alpha Moves Only, God bless. Have a very great rest of your day, and peace.